Bad Lee, how's it going, man?
Going well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I gotta apologize. It says here your name is actually not Vad, it's Lavadier. How hard was that to spell at 5 years old? Were you sitting in the classroom going L-A? Y'all just call me Vad.
Yeah, no, I actually used to go by Levadier pretty much my whole life until high school when recruiting started up for me and coaches. My high school coach, Coach Antonio King, would put VAD on the roster. So of course you're VAD in the paper, you're VAD in the recruiting trail, and you're just VAD. And then you take on names like Bad VAD and all those things, which is pretty cool.
So you actually went to high school in Durham, North Carolina, and it says you were actually a receiver.
I was a receiver my sophomore year in high school. We had a senior quarterback who was a scholarship college quarterback as well. Ended up going to Duke University. His name is Corey Gaddis, and so I first stepped on the scene as a baby, a little puppy receiver, and had 1,000 yards receiving, over 12 touchdowns passing. So of course that gained a lot of people's attention. Being that I was a sophomore, putting up those type of numbers.
So how did you end up at Georgia Tech under Paul Johnson as a quarterback?
Yeah, I think being that I played receiver, I ended up playing. Even though I was a receiver, I was a backup quarterback in high school, and I became the starting quarterback my junior and senior year. And I was a North Carolina Player of the Year out of high school as quarterback my senior year. Won the state championship my senior year. And I was looking for a college that believed in me to be their quarterback, not the athlete or not the receiver, but the quarterback. And Georgia Tech was one of the first schools that were committed to me being the quarterback at their institution.
How quickly did you realize as a quarterback at Georgia Tech that man, I can't really throw the ball around here like I used to could under Paul Johnson's heavy run offensive base?
Yeah, it took me till I got there to truly understand what I was getting myself into. I didn't have knowledge of the triple option system. Never ran it, in high school or anything. So, when I got there, I quickly realized that this is a big adjustment for me. This might not fit my skill set, and it might not fit on what they thought that they wanted to do in terms of opening up the ball, opening up the pass game a little bit more. But the run game was so lethal, it's so great. It was almost as if, why would you? So I realized that I was probably the one that was the outcast, or I was the one that was kind of like the one that should move on, instead of Georgia Tech moving on to another system.
During your time at Georgia Tech, what was your perspective? Because I know you guys ran a little bit of a two-man quarterback situation. Were you looking at it as, man, I'm just grateful that they're doing this and letting me get an opportunity? Or were you looking at it as, man, this guy's in the way, I want to be the starting QB1?
Yeah, the opportunity to play as a redshirt freshman was a big deal. And I was very thankful for the opportunities that I received. Of course, there was games where I wanted to be in every play. In particular, I remember the Florida State game when we played in the ACC championship. And I threw a big pass to Darren Waller, and ended up running a long run. And I was feeling juiced up, and we ended up losing that game, not by much, but I certainly wanted to lead us down there. But I only played a few drives that game. So there was some times where it was like, the coach had to make a decision whether he was going to keep you in or not. And it caused less room for mistakes. You couldn't make mistakes, or else you'll miss out on that next opportunity.
When you were at Tech and you would make those mistakes, you were playing at Tech during the time when the original NCAA football game was out. Would you ever play as yourself to kind of give you some redemption?
Yeah, I would play with myself often. Sometimes I would change up the playbook package, but definitely we had a great team. It was always fun playing with yourself. In fact, my year was the last year of the NCAA game being made. So I always thought that was pretty cool. You were able to make it your last year. For whatever reason, I wasn't on there my first 2 years, but I was able to make it my last year.
You ended up going to James Madison after Georgia Tech. How much of an influence was Coach Withers in that decision?
He was a big influence in that decision. He recruited me out of high school when he was at the University of North Carolina, where I always thought that I would end up playing there. And he was there, and then he went on to be Ohio State, and then he ended up being the head coach at the same time that I was looking to transfer somewhere. And it was just the perfect timing for him to take that job and for me to get that opportunity.
You went on to have a successful career at James Madison. You got the FCS Offensive Player of the Year in 2015. Then you went to Canada, and then you went to the XFL, and now you're in the USFL. What is the biggest difference to you in the USFL and the previous pro leagues that you've played in?
The XFL had a lot of great talent on the field. First of all, it was a great production. To have Fox Sports involved in the USFL coming back was great. It obviously has history, right? And that made that league very unique because of the history that it had probably before you and I were born. And to be able to be the starting quarterback for one of those teams was incredible. It was amazing. It was a wonderful opportunity, and I'm very blessed that I had that chance, that opportunity to play in the USFL.
I want to ask you real quick. I was watching a USFL game this year. I'm from Birmingham, so I'm a Stallions fan. Championship Stallions year. It was awesome. But before you got signed in May of last year, I was watching a game, and Joel Klatt did a segment on a notebook that you would take watching the games. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I would watch every USFL game, whether on my phone if I'm out, or most of the time I try to be in. And I would just jot down information because there was so much access into the games with the play calling. And, you could hear the calls, the coaches, the checks, the quarterback checks. And it's something I've been doing since I first got out of college. I remember going out on the field, watching YouTube, pulling up Dak Prescott highlights, Russell Wilson highlights, all these different quarterbacks highlights, and not even the highlights. I'll actually pull up the games and go over every drive. And I will be out on the football field by myself. They throw a 10-yard out, I throw the 10-yard out. If they scramble and run, I'll scramble and run. That was my condition for that day. So it's something that I just try to live. And I've certainly seen myself at this level and possibly beyond. But you got to put yourself in that position first. And I also wrote a book and started my own nonprofit. And one of the phrases that I go by is actually on my shirt, titled "Purpose Over Position." There's a great purpose over your position. You got to put yourself in position though first for you to obtain that purpose.
How much more do you think you felt that purpose over position with it being the inaugural season of the USFL? You had the reality show. You've got everybody staying there in the hotel. It feels like there's a little bit more eyes on you than maybe previous years.
For sure. Probably one of the biggest football opportunities in terms of broadcast or nationally that I've ever received, and I'm grateful for it. Certainly on a professional level, and I can only hope that it continues to build and continues to grow. I'm certainly putting myself in position to be better than I was this year. Obviously, I got thrown into the fire the fifth game of the season, but now having an off season and having some type of direction a little bit on where we're going, I'm certainly excited about it.
Yeah, what is your expectations for the Maulers next year? What was the stadium situation? Do you guys have a stadium in Pittsburgh now?
No, that's something that the USFL is working through. I'm sure there's many stadiums that would host the Maulers, but that's a USFL decision that they would have to make. So we'll see what they decide. And I'm looking forward for the Maulers having a good season next year.
Well, last thing before I let you run, I'm from Birmingham, and I know we always grew up talking about, man, it'd be so cool to have a pro team. And then for this past year, we had 8. So what was your thoughts of Birmingham, and what did you think of it?
I loved it. Birmingham grew on me. I was able to hang out at some different places. Magic City, that area was really nice. There's a nutrition spot that's there that I really enjoyed going to after practice. Big Mama's or something, a restaurant, a when it was a cool environment, cool experience. I thought it was the perfect city to host the inaugural USFL season.
He's number 12 on the field for the Maulers, number 1 in your hearts, Vad Lee. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me today, and God bless you, brother.
Thank you. God bless you. Take care. See you.